Compost, I don't think the aerification is that critical. If you're going to aerify, I would strongly suggest you put compost on afterwards. Otherwise, those little holes you punch, you're just going to fill in, and it's going to be just as hard 2 weeks later. Good question, though. Okay, a couple of other things I want to cover a little bit more briefly. Fungal diseases, brown patch in the yard. Haven't seen much of it this spring, largely because it's been so dry. Brown patch is a disease that shows up when the nights are cool and the days are warm. Now it seems like we either have cool nights, cool days, or warm nights, warm days. We haven't had the usual spring weather when we have very warm days and very cool nights. But in some cases you may get this fungus disease called brown patch that shows up in spring and fall under those conditions. The symptoms of brown patch, your yard areas will look brownish in color, and if you go out and you pull up on a leaf blade, the runner stays attached to the ground and is usually green, but the leaf blade pulls away, and down at the bottom it looks almost like it's rotten. It is a fungus disease, Rhizoctonia fulgens or something like that. I get a lot of people in the middle of summer say my yard has brown patch. No, it doesn't. Brown patch doesn't show up when we have hot nights. But if you have a brown patch problem, which is not real common, there are a couple of different ways to address it. What you do not want to do is go out and buy a chemical fungicide, because then you kill off all the good fungi as well as the bad guys. Two effective ways to combat most fungal troubles. One of them is to grow a fungus called trichoderma, which is very aggressive, and it eats other fungi. It eats athlete's foot, it eats toenail fungus, it eats brown patch fungus, destroys powdery mildew, destroys black spot, literally devours most fungal problems. How do you get trichoderma? Well, trichoderma grows on whole ground cornmeal. So when you're putting out cornmeal for a fungus problem, you're not putting out something that goes and attacks the fungus. You're putting out something that grows a fungus that goes and attacks the bad fungus. And that's the benefit of using whole ground cornmeal, is that it then grows the trichoderma, which will take out just about any damaging fungus that you can imagine. I used to just say it was good for every situation. I had a greenskeeper from a golf course over in Houston call me and tell me it was the worst thing he'd ever done to his greens. And I said, well, why is that? And he said, well, after I put it out, I had a herd of deer came out. Those little hooves just tore up the green. So what are we going to do if for some reason we don't want to put out the cornmeal? We're going to soak the cornmeal in water and then put the water out. And that works extremely well. We call that corn water tea. And if you want to make a good, effective fungicide, just take some whole ground cornmeal. Now let me distinguish between whole ground and so-called enriched cornmeal. When you go to the grocery store and you buy enriched cornmeal, you know how that was made? Well, they took the little kernel of corn and they polished the outside of it off. They took away 14 essential nutrients and basically left you with starch. Then they put 10 nutrients back and called it enriched. I somehow come out 4 nutrients short. I think that's what George Bush called fuzzy math. You don't want enriched cornmeal. You want whole ground cornmeal, where they simply ground the whole piece of corn up, which is much, much healthier for you and which will grow the trichoderma fungus. Some of the chemical companies have actually jumped on the bandwagon and started growing trichoderma and selling trichoderma now as a fungicide. One of my grower friends showed me his little bottle of trichoderma that he had bought, $200 for a bottle this big. 50-pound bag of cornmeal would have done the same exact thing for him. Now when you make your corn water tea, you've got a choice. You can just dump maybe half a cup of cornmeal to a couple of gallons of water, and then you can strain it or use it. If you want to bypass the straining process, get an old sock, or ladies, take an old pair of pantyhose or something like that, put the cornmeal down in the toe of the pantyhose or sock or whatever, dip that down in the water, leave it for 24 to 36 hours, then you just pull that out, throw it away, and you'll have your corn water tea ready to go. By the way, it'll also take care of algae in ponds and things like that. But that corn water tea is a really good fungicide. The other way, and then I'll get to your questions, the other way you can combat fungus, bad fungi, is to grow so many healthy fungi that there's no room for the bad guys. You do that with garlic. see any garlic out here, but garlic stimulates many beneficial fungi. It's one reason it's good for you to eat garlic or whatever. But when you spray garlic juice, you're creating so many beneficial fungi that they literally crowd out most of the bad fungi. Now, questions? Yes, sir.
What I do is kind of scatter the cornmeal and then just water it in.
That's what I do. Works well. Yes, ma'am.
I know when you use compost in a bag, how do you use compost tea? What's the difference between the tea and...
That'll be the subject of a seminar coming up pretty soon. Compost tea, well, let's put it this way. If we put compost in a bucket, filled it with water, let it soak for a while, and then pour the water off, we would call that compost leachate, and it would be full of lots of good things that had come out of the compost. If we, in effect, put the compost in a vat of water, extracted all the good things out of it, and then put them in a condition where they multiply themselves 10,000 times over, that is what we would call actively aerated compost tea. And again, we'll spend a whole morning talking about that sometime. I don't remember whether it's next month. We've got that seminar scheduled, but we'll do a whole seminar on compost tea. Yes?
The algae in ponds, will this work on algae in fountains?
Sure.
How am I going to do it? Am I going to put this corn water just into the fountain?
No, you're going to put cornmeal into it. In a little... Yeah, It ties up the potassium in the water that the algae needs to grow. Now, it's not going to look like you treated it with chlorine. I mean, it's not going to give you that good a look, but it's going to take care of probably 98% of the algae that's in the water. You can do the same thing in a farm pond, but don't do it in the summer, because if you kill all the algae at once, all the algae starts to rot, just like we were talking about the dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico. All the oxygen is out of the water and all your fish die. If you're going to use it to kill algae, you do it in the cool months when the decomposition is slower, you don't lose all your oxygen. But yeah, it's great as far as reducing green algae problems.
How much cornmeal? My cup?
Quarter of a cup,
Okay.
half a cup, doesn't take very much. Other questions before we go on to a couple other things?
Kinds of potatoes for the mini horses.
Oh yeah, great stuff, absolutely. Yes?
We were listening to your program driving in today, and you mentioned a deer repellent I've never heard of called
Bob-X. It is a good product. Liquid Fence is a good product.
They're equally good.
I think they're equally good.
Okay.
But the deer are so hungry that they're gonna, you know, if you're hungry enough, you'll eat stuff you don't like. Ask any kid that's been forced to eat vegetables before he can have anything else. And the deer are that way. If they're hungry enough, they'll go past any repellent, other than the 30-06. But which is very effective. Okay, then I want to talk about insects. Yes.
Little side effects on that cornmeal. It's also good for fungus on the feet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Make mush out of it on the feet.
Yeah, if you've got toenail fungus, make your kind of, not like a paste, but a little bit drier than that. Let it sit for 12 hours or so. Soak a foot in it for about an hour a day for, a week or two. Or, take a rubber boot or something like that. Just put it down on the toe of the boot and wear it around for a couple of hours every evening. It'll take care of toenail fungus. If you grind cornmeal finely, put it in your socks, you'll never have athlete's foot, I'll promise you. It's good stuff. It'll control ringworm on animals. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned spraying garlic juice. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Garlic is a natural stimulator of beneficial fungi. If you mix it at the rate of 2 or 3 ounces of garlic juice per gallon, you'll control most fungi and prevent most fungi. Unfortunately, garlic's expensive. Garlic is very, very easy to grow. If you want to, use garlic as a good fungal spray, grow yourself a bunch of garlic, make your own. It grows like a weed if you plant it in October and gives it the right conditions. Yeah.
Are you going to have a seminar on trees anytime?
We are. Our friend Ed Etter, who's the best arborist I know, has actually said he would come do one on pruning and things like that. So don't have it scheduled, but we definitely will do that.
I was concerned about the ball moss.
It's not a concern.
No, it's not.
Let me tell you about one upcoming seminar, though, that you really need. I think we've got it scheduled now for April 18th. we do it a month at a time, and we should have next month posted. But one of them we've already scheduled in April. There is a wonderful lady named Cynthia Pedregon. Cynthia and her husband own the Peachtree Restaurant